I was trying to think of a new joke for today, and I couldn't think of a new one. But Joe said this one wasn't too old and moldy, so I thought I'd bring it back. It's kind of a church joke. It's set in Ireland. It's about, and you might remember, it's about a guy. It's an older gentleman, lived out in the countryside, just his pet dog for company for many years. And when his beloved dog passed away, he went to the local Catholic church, of course, his church, and asked the father if they could do a mass for his deceased dog. And Father O'Malley said, "Oh, we can't be doing masses for animals now. I'm sorry, it's just not something we can do." And Muldoon said, "Oh, okay, Father." And Father said, "But there's a Baptist church down the way, and who knows what they'll do down there." And so we went down to the Baptist church, and so he says, "Okay, I'll do that, Father." And then he says to Father O'Malley, he says, "So, Father, what do you think? Do you think $10,000 would be an adequate gift for a memorial or for a mass such as this?" And the father's thought for a moment. He said, "Well, sweet Mary, Mother of Jesus, you never told me the dog was Catholic." I like that. That's different. I'm still thinking, beginning of the year, new opportunities for growth and stepping out and becoming more of what's possible for us to become. I always think a lot about that at the beginning of the year. It's a wonderful scripture from Ephesians. Put on the new self, put on the new self. We're thinking about that sometimes in the beginning of the year. How do we do that? How do we participate in our own becoming process as we kind of continue to evolve and grow, become more of what's possible for us? And I always think of this old poem by Robert Frost that kind of tries to answer that question in a way. The Road Not Taken, you might remember it from school. This will feel a little bit like English class for a moment, but I thought I'd share some of that poem with you. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, it's just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Isn't that a great old poem? Love that poem. I come back to it again and again. There are choices we make. I guess that's what the poet is saying. We make choices, one road as opposed to another, lots of choices as we go along, and one seems to lead to another. Way leads on to way. We don't wind up back at the same spot. Way leads on to way, another turn, another choice, and little by little that builds a life. And I think that's true to a certain extent. That's how we build our lives, by choices. Would you agree?
Yes.
But I don't think that's the whole of the story. Have you chosen your whole life? Did you plot it all out, choice by choice? Did you plan it? Did you have a blueprint? I don't think we do. It's not all this top-down process of deciding this is the kind of life I'm going to have, so I choose this and this and this. We participate, that's for sure. We participate in the process by being choosers, by acting, by stepping out, choosing a path without knowing where is it going to lead. He didn't know which was the better path to take, but you step out. But it's more than that, the creation of new things, including new selves. It's more than just our making choices. There's a lot more going on in the process. That's why I've always been engaged by this scientific research about emergence. It's been going on for some years now, probably 10 or 15 years. They talk about emergence as a kind of a fancy word for how new things get created. They emerge. Emergence theory talks about how that happens. Lives, new ideas, new systems, new products, new communities, how they emerge. There's a theory about that. And it talks about there's something like new arising with new patterns and properties and characteristics as things grow and evolve, and the kind of energy that's involved in that, that's sort of multifaceted. It's not a top-down process. It's like an energy that's kind of infused throughout the whole system. They talk about it in everything from like ant colonies or beehives or termite towers, that there's this intelligence that everything is guided to participate in, to the internet. We take the internet for granted now. There's a man named Tim Berners-Lee who theoretically invented it way back whenever that happened. But what emerged was pretty different from what he started out with. He started out with a certain idea that created a new thing that you could access on the computer. But then others were involved in the process. Other technologies became available. Way leads on to way. And it grew in a way he couldn't determine. He didn't plot all that out, what the internet became. We've had beehives discovered in our little, some of the trees in our woods over the years, and I've always been fascinated by how bee colonies survive over winters. They have this intelligence throughout the hive that they do this rotation of bees moving back towards the center to get the heat at the center of the hive in the middle of the tree to keep the hive alive over the winter. Where's that intelligence come from? Is there one bee telling everybody what to do? I don't think so. It's this this intelligence that infuses the whole system. It's the same thing in us. There's this intelligence at work in us, in everything, that's creative, that is life-building, that creates new things. Scientists talk about it as a self-organizing activity. A self-organizing activity in all living things, that it's not top-down, it's not like agent-driven, like a monarch deciding, declaring what shall be. It's throughout the whole system. It's an awareness that kind of permeates and guides the whole system. It's in our own bodies, our neural networks, the way our cells in our brains are throughout our body, the way they combine and form networks. We're not telling our bodies how to do that. It's not agent-driven, it's not top-down, it's an intelligence throughout the whole body. Our immune systems, everything involved in that, how they balance, hormonal levels, glands, everything. They operate in this multi-system way with this intelligence guiding it all that we're not directing. It's amazing. Self-organizing activity, emergence, they talk about it as. We could just as easily call it divine mind, God in action in our lives, in our world, in everything around us. How does it show up in a life? How does it show up in your life? Emergence, the creation of yourself, the creation of your life, every aspect of your life, your work life, your relationship life, your healing life, things that you've healed from as you've gone up through life. Can you track how that's happened? Did you determine it all? Was it a top-down process? You saw something, decided this is the kind of work life I'm going to have, and so I'm going to choose this and that. We participate, but boy, there's a lot more involved in it than that. For myself anyway, as I look back, I can see that there were lots and lots of times when I was just feeling my way, just kind of floundering around. And with my antenna up, looking for answers, looking for ideas on which way to go. I did not have a plan. How many of you had a plan all the way through your life? I don't think so. I think mostly we're feeling our way. It's an intuitive process. And this creative energy is working on our behalf, in our midst. I was thinking about, and I've probably shared stories about it before, but a difficult time in my life in my mid-30s. Both my parents died that year. I broke up with some boyfriend. I had financial problems. I was living alone and sort of barely head above water financially, and doing a lot of healing, dealing with a lot of depression. I was dealing with a lot of physical discomfort during my mother's illness. I had done a lot of lifting in a way that really injured shoulders and muscle movement and so on. Some of you may have had experiences like that in your life. So it was a time of healing. And at the time, I was sort of barely putting one foot in front of the other, just kind of trying to keep up, keep the job that was paying the bills, and had the antenna up, looking for ideas on healing and moving forward, and things just sort of arose. I was referred to where I was working part-time at OSU. They had a faculty staff assistance program, and someone suggested, why don't you talk with them? They'll hook you up maybe with a grief counselor. It might be helpful. You can tell them what kind of counselor that you think you could work with, and I did that, and I was referred to a wonderful woman by the name of Joanna Hart, who was all heart, and she was a hospice psychologist and had a private practice in grief and bereavement counseling. Was perfect. Got referred to her. The aches and pains, someone who mentioned a massage therapist they really liked, and I've found a wonderful massage therapist who was perfect for me. I read, books sort of kind of found their way into my hands. I remember somebody giving me a recording, I think it was a cassette tape, we're talking way back here, a cassette tape of a lecture by Baba Ram Das on death. And I remember it very well. It came to me just the right time, and a friend passed it along to me. The title of his lecture was "Death is Not an Outrage." And when you're dealing, in recovery from a grief that is difficult, there's often a lot of anger and things like that, and anger to God, anger at the universe, anger at doctors, anger at circumstances. It helped me with that. It's almost as if things were being orchestrated on my behalf. Sermons I was hearing at church seemed to be just for me. People tell me that sometimes. That sermon was just for me, and I think, I remember that feeling well. And God does that. Nobody can plan that. Would you agree? Only God can orchestrate that kind of perfect combining of the message with the listener. That was going on. I remember hearing about a writing workshop, and I had always had an interest in writing, and I decided to take that writing workshop at some point, and it was nourishing for me. I met a lot of people with common interests as I was doing in church also. It's almost as if there was a very, very wise orchestrator saying, in this aspect of her healing, this is what she needs right now, but at this point she needs this. And now let's bring in a creative element, because she needs to do that creative exercise. And let's bring in this wisdom from this direction, and this physical support because of the physical healing going on. But nobody was doing that. Certainly wasn't me. I was floundering, just feeling my way moment by moment. Who was the orchestrator? God, I guess I'd call it, God in action, divine energy. The scientists would call it, the self-organizing activity of emergence, this energy, this process that's going on in our lives all the time. This emergent energy at work in our midst. It's going on in all our lives. And I bet each one of us, if we look back at different aspects of your life, your work life, your relationship life, and sort of track, how were you guided? What choices you made, what opportunities came your way. I think we can become awed at the intelligence that seemed to be operating the whole time. So often we just don't tend to reflect on that. We kind of feel our way, opportunities come up, and if we're wise, we're grateful for them, but we don't think about the creative energy at the heart of that and how it's with us even right now. If we're dealing with some kind of confusion in our life, some need for direction, this energy is at work on your behalf right now. How do we tune into that? If it's at work all the time, how do we work with that energy? I think that's the question. I wasn't aware of it at the time that I was doing that healing work I was just telling you about. I wasn't aware of guidance. I wasn't aware of a creative energy at work on my behalf. Most of the time I felt confused and lost. It was only gradually as things began to work together on my behalf that I started to realize I'm feeling better. Healing creeps up on you, don't you think? Healing creeps up on us. We're not tracking it necessarily moment by moment, but all of a sudden we might realize, I'm feeling a little better. I've got a little more energy. I feel a little more creative, like doing a little bit more. It creeps up on us, but the process has been going on. That creative energy has been working on our behalf right along. So it's doing so right now, too. So how do we work with it? It's not a top-down, agent-driven process. We don't think things up and make them happen. Boom, boom, boom. I don't care how many motivational speakers tell you that. We definitely participate and we make choices, but no, it's not all our brains deciding and setting a path and making it happen. It's not that simple, but it's also so much more magnificent because it's tied into creative process within and all around us, vaster possibilities than we can imagine, which is good because our imaginations tend to get limited sometimes. And often, some of the best things in our lives are not things we dreamed up. They just sort of came our way and we said, oh, this looks great. This suits me. This seems to use all my skills and background. This is right for me. But we didn't dream it up and make it happen. We didn't manufacture it. So here's what I came up with for how to work with that process. These are my 5 steps, just from looking back at emergence in my own life, what I seem to have learned from that process. And the first one is, don't wait for the blueprints. Don't wait for the blueprints. And I think we do that a lot. You just start from where you are, not by forcing anything, but by being receptive, by being intuitive, alert to guidance, alert to opportunities that arise. It happens too often in life that we put things off, something new, trying something new because we think we're not ready. We really need to get another degree. We really need more money to get started on that. We really need to have fewer obligations, maybe when the children are older, or we put off trying something new or moving in a new direction because we think we don't know enough or have enough, or we're just in some way we're not ready. And it's not true. You know enough to get started, always. We always know enough to get started. And we just start from where we are. And a lot of that's mostly mindset. I'm ready to move in a new direction. I think maybe it has something to do with coming out a little bit in this way. Sometimes it's only a vague sense we have of it. But I don't need blueprints for it. I know I'm not going to get them. I haven't had blueprints in the past, and I'm probably not going to get them now, but I know enough to get started. And I'm ready. Second one is, and this is sort of how we step out then, it's a phrase I'm borrowing from this emergence theory. Second one is explore the adjacent possible. I like that little phrase a lot. The adjacent, just like the next right step, to be another way of talking about that, the adjacent possible. We bring new things into our lives, into our experience through little choices. Next right step, that's really all we need to know for right now. So given where I am right now and my willingness to move out in a new direction a little bit, to become more, what's something I could do right now? What would be a next right step? Something that seems possible, seems right here, near me, it's adjacent. The adjacent possible. What project might I pursue? What road beckons? What opportunity seems available to me? We have a tendency to think that building our lives or becoming new in some way means big steps, but often it's little things, some little change we make that really makes a big difference in moving us in a new direction, opening up some new possibilities. I was interested, there's a book called Where Good Ideas Come From by Stephen Johnson. And he talks about, learning new things, exploring this adjacent possible. It's, we make discoveries more of a slow hunch process, not these immediate eurekas and everything is clear. It's more of a slow process, and it involves little adaptive choices, small things. Like maybe, it might have happened to many of us in the room, maybe there was a day where you decided, I'm gonna go to a church. I'm gonna try this church out. Anyone to make that choice? Most of the hands in the room. At some point in our lives, we did that. I'm going to try God. I'm going to give God a really good try here. And I think this church it's an adjacent possible for me. This looks possible, looks like it might fit, looks like a place I might be nourished, and maybe I would support my growth in some way. That's a big, it doesn't seem like a big thing, but that has a lot of impact, a choice like that. It could be taking a class. Something that's appealing to you, and you just seems available to you, you know of it, and that might really resonate with me, get my creative energy flowing. Could be a decision to change habits in some way, like I'm gonna, I know art is important to me in some way. I'm gonna do it every day. I get away from it. I don't use my creative gifts. Maybe kind of a decision, a choice. I'm going to do art every day. I'm going to paint every day. I'm going to sculpt every day. I'm going to write every morning. I'm going to do some morning pages. Or I'm going to move my body more. I think it gets my creative energy going too when I use my physical energy. I'm going to do that. Little adaptive choices we make day by day. They're deeply creative. They make a lot happen over the long haul. So don't wait for the blueprints. Explore the adjacent possible. Third one, connect with others. Connect with others. That same book I was talking about, Stephen Johnson's, Where Good Ideas Come From, he said more inventions arose from conference room tables than laboratories. I think that's an interesting thing to think about. We support each other's creativity and the development of new ideas as we connect with each other, as we share ideas with each other. We tend to forget that, and it's more like we think that the ideas we need in our lives, the discoveries, the inventions, we just have to hunker down and make it, think it up ourselves. Like a scientist in a laboratory, just kind of hunkering down over the research, over the kind of trying to work it out ourselves in our lives. I think we spin our wheels sometimes when we do that, don't you? We spin our wheels and stay stuck a little longer than is necessary. When quite often in a conversation, don't you find if you're sharing something, it'll spark another idea, just something somebody else says. Idea will build on idea, and you'll emerge from a conversation with something new in your head that wasn't there before. We're in this together. I think we're meant to encourage and support and inspire one another, and we do all the time. I'm constantly inspired by people around me, things people say, and the way they live, and what they're modeling. That's the natural process. I think we are meant to connect with one another. It's in books too. Books we stumble upon, ideas. Teachers, guides, and mentors all around us. We're meant to interact with others. So that's something we can do and be aware of. Don't hunker down too much. Don't withdraw too much. Remember that connecting with others is stimulating of the flow in your life, the growth of new things. Fourth one, use your gifts, whatever they are, however they flow. Using your creative gifts stimulates the flow, like priming a pump. Doesn't matter what level you're on with it, how good you think you are, all totally irrelevant. What's important, what's relevant is that we use whatever gifts we have, whatever abilities, whatever talents. It's different for all of us what they are. Music, art, painting, visual art in some way. I love writing. I've always loved writing, communication in all different kinds of ways. My dear friend Jenny, who's at the memorial we just went to yesterday up in Cleveland, she had a tremendous gift for making friends, for building community. It was one of her special gifts. She had circles of friends, communities of friends, everywhere she lived. It was a knack she had that went back to her classroom teaching days, I think, where she created communities out of 6th and 7th graders and would reward them at the end of the day with 5 minutes of dancing if they did good classwork. She'd have them all doing the electric slide. This is an organization, this is a community builder. She had a gift for making friends and creating community. She created one up in Vermilion called Shore Thing, which was all about rescuing a piece of beach at the center of town, which was neglected and covered with litter and dead fish and things like that. And it was at the heart of that community. And she got the idea, this could be a welcoming hub of this little lakeside town. And she started this little org that she dubbed Shore Thing. And they set up a shed and they rented chairs and sold ice cream and cleaned that beach every day and led drumming circles. She created this whole community using her gifts for organizing, making friends, talking to people, drawing people in. I want to be a part of that too. It's a healing thing that gets going. The energy of that, it's infectious. It spreads out. When we use our gifts, and other people are drawn to it, this emergence happens, this creative energy grows and spreads. And it's healing for us and for our communities, I think. There's this wonderful old saying from the Gospel of Thomas, in saying 70 in it, where Jesus is reported to have said, when you give rise to that which is within you, what you have will save you. Love that. Love that. It's already there. You don't make it happen. It's already there. But when you give rise to it, when you give rise to what's already within you, your energy, your talent, your gifts, your abilities, your spirit, when you find ways to get that out there, when you give rise to it, it'll save you. It's redemptive. It's healing. It's true for us personally. It's true for our communities as we share it with one another, as we get it out there. Final one is keep your antenna up. Never close down. Keep your antenna up, being alert for ongoing guidance, often from unexpected directions. That's been a big one for me. Often what's most important and most for you, what you need most, will come loping at you from left field. It's gonna, out of the periphery. Not the one you're focused on right now. I have to have this. And we get that way, don't we? I remember sending out some newspaper columns. I was intent on being a newspaper columnist because it made so much sense to me in so many ways. I like reflecting on human life, and short human interest columns seemed perfect. Sent them out by the hundreds. And I was very focused on that. And then ideas started coming from other fields. Well, what's this? This isn't what I'm focused on. I wasted some time with that. Very often, the best things in our life come out of left field. Would you agree? Not what we were looking for exactly. Not quite what we were expecting. I think that's true in relationships, in work, in creative projects, in every aspect, in healing opportunities, healing agents and resources that arise that we weren't even aware of. It's very often out of left field, so we've got to keep our antenna up and don't get locked down. So don't wait for blueprints, just start from wherever we are. Explore the adjacent possible next right steps. Connect with others, use our gifts, and keep our antenna up. God's creative energy is at work in me now. I am made new. That's my affirmation for the day. Let me say it once more. God's creative energy is at work in me now. I am made new. Want to say that with me? God's creative energy is at work in me now. I am made new. Let's take that into prayer for a moment. Confirm that truth within. This creative energy is in us and all around us at all times, in all circumstances, whatever the challenges we might be facing. New ideas are emerging in us. New opportunities are arising. New pathways are being lit before us. There is no separation between us and the creative energy of God. It is swirling within and all around us. So we are alert to it. We are ready to be guided. We are ready to embrace new opportunities we haven't even considered. And we are grateful for the power and presence of God in our very midst. So it is. Amen.